Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining another episode of the Educational Leadership Podcast. We have another very special guest. Before we introduce our guest, we do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Ideal Impact. Ideal Impact's giving away hundreds of millions of dollars to public education in the form of a free gift. So if your district needs unrestricted funds, reach out to Ideal Impact. Okay, today we have Superintendent Kleypas from Thorndale ISD. Superintendent Kleypas, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's jump right into it. We would love, first, just so our listeners get to know you a little bit better. We'd love to hear about your background. Just tell us how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I started as a high school math teacher in Pflugerville ISD, pretty large district, urban, suburban area. Um, Quickly found myself into administrative roles. I thought I was going to coach, but a principal said, "No, Kleypas, you're going to be an administrator." So I said, "Okay, let's go on the journey." And so I became a high school assistant principal, then became a middle school principal in the district for 5 years during COVID and that whole experience, and then moved into high school principal at Pflugerville High School in that same district where I had started as a teacher. Spent 2 years at that. Was named the high school principal of the year by TASSP. And then journeyed out here to Thorndale and became the superintendent. And whereas Pflugerville has 25, 26,000 students in the district, the high school that I was at had about 2,000 kids. Here in Thorndale, we have about 630 kids across the whole district, pre-K through 12. So awesome district, but very different experience.
Very cool. And curious, how long have you been at Thorndale now?
This is my second year here.
Awesome, awesome. Um, well, so t tell us a little bit about Thorndale. So where's it located? Just kind of size of district, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a district in Central Texas, Region 13, in school district terms. And usually we describe it as it's in between Austin and College Station along 79. So to boil that down even more, people are familiar with Round Rock, and then travel to Hutto, which is exploding in population, and then Taylor, and then the next stop is Thrall, and then Thorndale.
Got it. Yeah, and as you can see, I'm wearing my A&M shirt here. So College Station, and hey, I like that ring you got there. Very good.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Hey, we're in good company. We got another Aggie here. So awesome. So what are you passionate about in public education these days?
Well, I think first and foremost, we're here for the kids, right? And everyone will tell you that in public education. But right now, what we're trying to do is really create meaningful experiences for kids, right? When I was in a large district, it was trying to make sure that every kid had some sort of opportunity, because those opportunities can only spread so far. When I was in Pflugerville, we had 2,000 kids, and there were 25 kids on the varsity basketball team. Here in Thorndale, we've got 200 kids at the high school, and we still have 25 spots. So the challenges to provide opportunities are different. Here, we're really trying to provide as many opportunities as the big districts can provide. So um, I think for us, it's really exciting to get kids involved in things and let them kind of learn and grow and experience things that they wouldn't get if it wasn't for the public education in their community.
Got it. And so maybe a dumb question here. So with a district with only 200 kids in high school, are they competing against other districts with similar sizes in sports, or is it, I mean, are they?
Yeah, it's a great question. So UIL governs that, and in sports, things like football, basketball, volleyball, track, we compete against other 2As or high schools of similar size. We get categorized in that boat. However, we have groups like our FCCLA, FFA, and AG, and other organizations that compete across all sizes. So our 25 kids from Thorndale might be competing against 25 kids from Austin, in the same arena, which is a challenge and pretty exciting for them.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, very cool. So tell me about the community a little bit. Is it a growing community? I mean, it seems like between College Station and Austin, that just seems like prime real estate and just great opportunities and
Yeah, definitely. There's a term that's been coined called the Texas Triangle, which spreads from Dallas to Austin to kind of Houston, San Antonio, and makes this triangle. And Thorndale is right smack in the middle of that. And they say within this Texas Triangle, there is just so much growth coming in. Some of the examples are Tesla a couple years ago coming out to the Austin area that a lot of people knew about. Samsung has dropped a multi-billion-dollar investment in Taylor, which is about 15 minutes from us. On the other side of us in Rockdale, there was an old factory called Alcoa that was recommissioned a couple years ago and has now been purchased. It's, I think, 35,000 acres with multiple sprawling lakes and just beautiful scenery that they're reconditioning and turning into kind of a mini city of its own. And so the growth is on both sides of us. So what's interesting about Thorndale is for the last 10 years, our population has been very steady because there hasn't been a whole lot of new homes coming in. So one family would move out, one would come in, and it was just this slow churn. But with all this growth around us, different developers and builders are coming in, and so we have about 100 home development that started last year, which for us, could add 100 to 200 kids pretty easy and grow our district really, really fast. So we're trying to prepare for that as best as we can.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So are y'all seeing a big influx right now, or is it not quite yet?
It's kind of like a delay a little bit because everybody's getting into Taylor, everybody's moving into Hutto. And so what typically happens, the growth patterns are usually where, all these new families, all these new industries move in, and then there are families who say, man, I don't want to be in an area quite this packed, quite this congested. And so they start to move out and it becomes. And I think as soon as more of these homes come online, and as soon as more of the land goes up for sale, we're going to see a rapid growth. From last
Yeah.
year to this year, we grew about 30 kids, which is pretty significant for us. But that's sprinkled across 13 grade levels from pre-K to 12. So the impact on the school isn't as drastic.
It's funny. This is the second district I've spoken to on the podcast. It's kind of in a similar boat. So I had Shepherd ISD on the podcast, and then Cleveland is the fastest growing district in the state, and Shepherd's about 10 miles north, and they haven't started to see the growth yet, but it's coming, right? It's
Yes.
sounds very similar.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, what's on the horizon for the district? So, the district's starting to grow. It'd probably be growing a lot here in the next few years. What, what do y'all see as kind of a milestone or goal over the next, 1 to 5 years?
Well, excuse me, something we're incredibly excited about is we just passed a bond last May in the election. And for Thorndale, the community had not passed a bond in the last 25 years. And
Wow.
so many districts who are growing fast or seeing rapid changes, they'll go out for a bond every 3 to 5 years. Some of them as quick as every year. They're going out for a new bond to plan for that growth. And because our size has been somewhat stagnant, it just hasn't happened here in Thorndale. And so we put together a really large community committee, did some needs assessment work, and passed a $34.5 million bond. And right now we're in the design phase for a brand new high school, which will build on some land that we've got, which will really cause kind of a cascading effect. So we'll have a brand new high school. Our current high school, which is one of our newer campuses, will turn into the middle school. And then the current middle school and elementary will be combined because they're close enough via a hallway and become kind of a super elementary school for us to allow for a little bit of growth in every grade level for a while. So that's super exciting for us.
How do y'all decide whether to just convert a school or demolish it and build a new one? Is it more just like a cost analysis to remodel versus?
Yeah, cost analysis and engineers and architects coming in to say what's the lifespan of this? Almost like your car, you say, well, I could buy new or I could, try to keep this one running for a couple more years. And it's the same with our buildings. They come in and look at structural and mechanical and plumbing and all that. And in our case, our buildings are older, but they're built on a very good foundation and back when they were built, they were put together well. So we're able to clean those up, repurpose them, and get a lot more life out of them.
Got it. Very good. Okay, so uh last question here, right? So if you were to invite someone to come on the podcast, somebody in public ed, maybe another superintendent, who's the first person that comes to mind?
Man. Well, I think of my former superintendent when I was in Pflugerville, Dr. Doug Killian. He's no longer in Pflugerville, actually. He took a role in Cy-Fair, which is one of the largest districts in Texas. I think they have like 110,000 kids. Um, and so his stories are always very interesting. Quite a different perspective, right? Me coming with 600 kids and him coming with 100,000. Our days, although our title is the same, our day looks very different. And so he might be a hard person to snag because I bet he's pretty busy. But someone like that from one of the big districts would be really cool to hear from.
Very nice. Yeah, we'll definitely reach out to him. Any last thoughts or questions before we close out?
No, I appreciate you having me on. I think like the big picture and the timeline, uh, public education kind of felt like we had things figured out, and then COVID hit, and that all kind of seems like a blur now. And we've learned, we've kind of licked our wounds, if you will, because that was a tough time, and we've moved forward. But it's exciting because that really challenged everybody to think differently. And so I think what we're going to see, it's been depending on how your district was affected, anywhere from 2 to 4 years since that all happened. And I think we're going to really see some exciting things in public education, Texas specifically, and at the federal level. Public education is a big talking point for better and worse sometimes, right? It's an expensive budget item. And so I think it's just an exciting time to be around public education, and what the future holds, I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah, that's so true. It's we could have these expectations or projections or imagination on what we think things are going to happen, but it's all about evolving, getting better, and trying different things, and so yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. There's a lot of really great things happening in public education. We see it with all the superintendents such as yourself that we interview on the podcast, and grateful you were able to make time to come on the podcast today. Oh, we froze up there. There you go.
There you go. I see you. Are you good? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Just thanking you for coming on the podcast. I know we've had a couple spots where we froze up a little bit, but I think we captured everything. Um, so just thanking you for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Happy to help. And if there's ever any other questions or things I can do, I'd be happy to help.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we'd love to have you on again. And before we do close out, we do want to give one final shout out to our sponsor, Ideal Impact. Ideal Impact's giving away hundreds of millions of dollars to public education. If your district needs unrestricted funds, reach out to Ideal Impact. And for those that have been tuning in, stay tuned for future episodes of the Educational Leadership Podcast.